What's up? What's up? What's up? 2 years ago, tonight, LSU won a national championship. Two years ago tonight, January 13th, 2020, LSU won a national championship. And when you look at that team compared to the era we're just about to enter with LSU, couldn't be more unrecognizable, could it? At the same time, there's some interesting people returning from those teams, interesting supporting guys in the background. But when you talk about prime contributors from LSU's greatest of all time team, we're watching them in the NFL right now, setting new records. Okay. I think to me, that's what makes this 2019 team, which I'm watching the LSU Alabama 2019 game still on my DVR from then. Watching it again, I think what made that team so unbelievably special was you don't even have to look at just what they did in the 2019 season. Look at what they became at the NFL level. Sure, there was some guys who turned into busts or whatever, but those guys had amazing 2019 seasons. Tyler Shelvin had an amazing 2019 season. K'Lavon Chaisson had an unbelievable 2019 after he came back from his ACL in 2018. There's so many guys who were a part of that special team. 7 top 10 teams taken down. We covered that entire season. That was, I think, the second season we covered at LSUODYSSEY.com, or before LSUODYSSEY.com even existed. It was on Uninterrupted Sports Odyssey on blogspot.com. That's how far back we're talking here. And there was a lot of fire with that LSU team, but there was a lot of doubters still, and the doubt continued with every game. Even into the January 13th title game against Clemson, people were still destroying this LSU team as so arrogant, cocky, overrated, totally not even giving this team anywhere near the dues they deserved. And when you look back at just what this team accomplished in this 2019 season, I really wonder how long it will take those records to be broken, even in the era where offense is running everything. I don't think those records will ever be topped at a college football level. I mean, Joe Burrow's records, 60 touchdown passes, 65 total touchdowns. Absolutely ridiculous. You had the team ran for 32 total touchdowns. We ran for 32 total touchdowns. Joe threw for 65. Miles Brennan threw another touchdown there. And then you add Micah Baskerville scoring a special teams touchdown, Trey Palmer scoring a special teams touchdown. You've got this team scored in every single way except for defensively, because they didn't even need to. It was just get down and give this offense the ball. This team still gave up weird mistakes, weird blown plays. We allowed a 300-yard rusher against us in the Ole Miss game, 38 points in that game. But at the same time, if you look at the pace of how fast LSU's offense were scoring that season, it was forcing our defense to play max amounts of drives, and they were playing against fast offenses themselves. And so we tired our own defense out repeatedly that season with how pedal to the metal that offense was. I mean, I'm watching it again. The way these concepts worked, we just absolutely fooled everybody. No one had seen these types of just bunch formations being taken advantage of so easily in these one-on-one matchups. Um, Everybody thought they could match up one-on-one against our guys. It was foolish. I'm watching right now, even Trayvon Diggs, who has 11 interceptions, I believe, in the NFL right now, just having a disgusting season. Um, Watching him get torched all over the field by this 2019 LSU team. This 2019 LSU team, every time there needed to be an answer, there was. I just saw it in the Alabama game. Right after, LSU takes a 10-0 lead, Alabama return a kickoff for a touchdown or a punt for a touchdown. Or no, I think it was a kickoff. And then, or no, I think it was a punt actually. And then they, cutting it to 10-7, and they're at home. What do we do immediately? We throw a touchdown at Terrace Marshall to silence them, just like that. I mean, we absolutely burned Xavier McKinney this game. And some of the moves, I mean, I don't know who your favorite Tiger is of the 2019 season. I'm sure a lot of people will say Joe Burrow, of course, but for me, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, what he did in this season, especially when you look at the Alabama games, the way he played against Clemson, the way he was playing on a torn hamstring against Oklahoma, plowing dudes over. Clyde has to be, I think, my favorite of that season. Just impeccable, unbelievable. 17 rushing touchdowns, over 1,000 yards on the season, and he was amazing in receiving as well. We got to put up the numbers. We got to put up the numbers here. (1,414 rushing yards, 6.6 per carry, 16 rushing touchdowns, 453 receiving yards off of 55 catches, one receiving touchdown, so 17 touchdowns. Good Lord. Good Lord. Joe Burrow, 368 rushing yards, but look at this rushing. 21. 16 for Clyde, 5 for Joe, 6 for Ty Davis-Price as a freshman, 6 touchdowns. Just under 300 yards, 295 for Ty. 4 for John Emery Jr., 4 touchdowns for John Emery Jr. 1 touchdown even for Leonard Fournette. Yeah, just like I said before, 32 rushing touchdowns from this team. I mean, incredible. Incredible. This offense. They were supremely balanced, too. Very, very balanced. If you look at, how they attacked teams, they balanced it big time. I mean, 215 rushes to Clyde and then 115 to Joe alone right there. 64 to Ty. 39 to John. 38 to Chris Curry. That right there, I mean, that shows the balance with this team. And every one of those guys rushed for over 4.6 yards per carry. Ty Davis-Price, 4.6. John Emery Jr., 4.8. Chris Curry, 5 yards per carry. Clyde, 6.6, of course, and then Joe is the only one with 3.2 yards, but that's because of the sacks and that, but still, unreal. Unreal. Then you look at Joe, 5,671, 10.8 yards per attempt. Average yards after attempt, or adjusted passing yards per attempt, 12.5. 60 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. My God. 60 to 6. And they want to even compare Bryce Young's, 45 to 8 or whatever it was, 46 to 8 at the end of everything. No, you try and even compare these seasons, and then you look at how Joe You know, people don't really realize, but Joe broke his ribs in that game against James Skalski against Clemson, where Skalski hits him right in the rib cage, throwing that touchdown to Thad Moss. And he's on the bike the entire halftime, and everybody was freaking out. I was kind of worried too, but it's just incredible that Joe had already done enough to win us that game in the first half, but he comes out, leads us to victory, still taking punishing shots. And I mean, the way we came back in that game early, it's down 17-7, all the momentum in going Clemson's way. And we just totally turn it around with these little plays to Clyde. Clyde chipped off 150 yards or so in that game, doing it through the air, on the ground. And then, of course, Terrace Marshall with the big game-winning touchdown, game-sealing touchdown, I should say. But Thad Moss probably had the biggest day for anybody on that game in the 13th. Thad Moss's touchdowns were so crucial right before the end of that first half. High drama in that first half, especially. The second half, LSU were more in control, but it was still in the balance until Skalski was ejected from the game for his helmet-to-helmet contact on Justin Jefferson, which, was kind of harsh, but you knew once Skalski was out of the game, it was LSU's. With Skalski in that game, Burrow had somebody he was, mano-a-mano against. Two Ohio guys going against each other, and it was high drama. He wanted to go out there and punish Joe Burrow, and he did hurt Joe Burrow. He smashed him in the rib cage, I think on 3 or 4 occasions. But in the end, Joe won the battle, and it was just the way that LSU won that game was basically Joe letting Skalski come at him. The protection scheme was to let Skalski come in free up the middle. Don't let any blitzers from the outside, just let Skalski come up the gut. Joe knew he could handle Skalski and throw it away in time before Skalski got there. And, they used Skalski's aggression against him. And you could tell James Skalski knew it. There's an article we wrote about that inside the battle between Skalski and Burrow. That's there on LSUODYSSEY.com. Definitely check that out. It's we had firsthand knowledge behind with the Ensmingers on what went down play calling wise in that game, and the discussions going into those play calls, and what the offensive angle of attack would be. I mean, the season is just incredible. And, we haven't even talked about Derek Stingley Jr.'s 6 interceptions, fulfilling part of the promise. At least we got to see him for that full season. At least we'll always have 2019 when it comes to Stingley. It would never be the same after, but Stingley, what an amazing 2019. 6 picks, 15 pass breakups. I think he allowed a catch 0.3% of the time on his targets. 91 total targets in that season. We've written extensively. If you look at our Stingley section, we've got all the next level stats. We went through and watched every single rep for Stingley, tallied it ourselves. And it's such a body of work from Derek Stingley. And then you just all these guys on that team, Rashard Lawrence, Michael Divinity Jr., who was suspended and was able to come back for the title game. Even Cam Lewis was there and had his best season until this last season when he came out and had a huge, huge year for LSU this year. But this was Cam Lewis. He played some some extended reps at times. There was Apu Ika, still there on the front. Braden Fajoko, who's been showing out for the Chargers, the number one ranked player against the run in the NFL right now. Braden Fajoko. He had 6 tackles for loss in the season, a half sack, and those numbers don't even quantify how effective he was, especially his hits on Tua in the Alabama game. It absolutely affected Tua once he hit Tua. Totally the game plan was to force him to his left on that ankle and get him to have to extend plays and wear down that ankle. But, guys like Braden Fajoko were huge on that type of stuff. Rashard Lawrence was huge, just grinding away plays. Rashard Lawrence breaks up the pass that kind of stalls Alabama's drive on that first drive and kind of makes them, it's a wide open touchdown. He blocks. The next play, Tua does the ghost fumble. And who would be there to scoop it up? Of course, Ray Thornton. Ray Thornton, he's gone as well from LSU. He was there on that team. Andre Anthony was there on the team. He had a sack in the season, 2 passes deflected. Marcel Brooks. Remember Marcel Brooks? His sack on against Florida. I think it was Kyle Trask. Unbelievable. We never got to see him fulfill his promise at LSU. Here, Rivers. But Marcel Brooks was brilliant. Even Joseph Evans was on that team. Jay Ward was on that team, had a few pass breakups against Mississippi State in the college football playoff on Oklahoma's quarterback at the time. Oh, God, I can't think of his name. The guy who's playing for the Eagles right now. Oh, yeah, Jalen Hurts. There we go. Jalen Hurts, yeah. He's kind of going mano-a-mano with Jalen Hurts at the end of that game. It was kind of deflecting some passes there. But if you look at that roster, it is just littered with talent and names. Racey McMath was on that team. Torrey Carter was on that team. Avery Atkins was on that team. Jontre Kirkland was on that team. Todd Harris, Maurice Hampton, Mo Hampton, transferred from, Christian Fulton, 5-star corner, was on that team. Now playing for the Titans. Grant Delpit showing out for the Browns. He won the Thorpe Award that year. Patrick Queen coming out of nowhere, taking over a starting spot, and winning defensive MVP of the title game. Kerry Vincent Jr. having 4 picks. That interception against Oklahoma was absolutely filthy, showed exactly what he can do. Damone Clark had 50 tackles in that season off the bench. Damone, that was his best season until this last year. Damone was awesome. I think Damone Clark hit every single one of those top 10 quarterbacks. Same with Braden Fajoko as well. From the 3rd and 17 play against Texas to, Jacoby Stevens just smashing the hell out of Amari Rodgers against Clemson. It was a crazy, crazy, unforgettable season with unforgettable plays. It was not just how LSU did it. It was the way LSU did it. It was the brilliance executed throughout. Those people will never be forgotten within LSU. 2 years ago. Can LSU get back there? I believe they can. It'll never be the same. It'll never be like that. We'll never see 2019 again. But if LSU can get back just the vibe of that team, the work ethic, the passion, the dedication, the togetherness, the talent, then the Brian Kelly era could perhaps surpass that, by winning multiple championships, not just having the token one. At the same time, the greatest of all time 2019 team will live forever. And there is nothing anybody can do about this team. This team is going to be, you're going to be reminded about 2019 LSU every Sunday for the next 20-something years with these players. They're just going to continue to rack up these records, and people are going to continue to be more and more impressed and more blown away by what this 2019 team really did. When you look at the staff, too, how layered and how thick, full of just great names that staff is, what Dave Aranda has gone on to do at Baylor. How much pedigree and Super Bowl winning, Bill Johnson, Greg McMahon. There's so many names on this team. So many high character guys attached to this team. Even Kelvin Falk, as the director of player development, had a big role to play with guys like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Ty Davis-Price, John Emery Jr. So there was a lot going on with this team. And, there was a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that will probably either never be talked about or wait until the book. But there was some drama, too, as well. There was drama as well in 2019. But this team was just too strong. The characters were just too strong. And the desire for success was just too much. And that is the thing I'll remember most about this 2019 team, is just their pure drive. And it's all about Joe Burrow. LSU doesn't get Joe Burrow, none of this happens. I firmly believe that. If there's one person, one player you can give all the credit to, if you really have to, it's Joe Burrow. From punching Jacoby Stevens in the face during practice to incite a fight between the defense and the offense, throwing 60 touchdowns, skewering and dissecting Nick Saban, eviscerating Kirby Smart, filleting Lincoln Riley, scaring Lincoln Riley from the SEC forever. Joe Burrow, he did everything. No quarterback in college football will ever have a season like he did. And LSU will probably never have a season like that again. We could win 15 more championships, and we might not ever have a season such as that. And that's okay, because what I'm watching right now, it's going to live forever, and it still feels just as damn good as it did at the time. '19 forever.